Welcome to the Cheer Athlete. Today, we're going to talk about injury prevention awareness and safety in cheer. If you don't know me, I'm Laura Turner. I'm the cheer PT, and I'm a physical therapist and strength coach, and I help cheerleaders reduce injuries in cheerleading and improve their performance through strength and conditioning programs. I read on Instagram and then on their website that USA Today, USA Cheer uh, is has uh, is calling August National Safety and Cheer Month, uh, NSCM, NCSM, National Cheerleading Safety Month. Um, I also Googled Cheerleading Safety Month, and it came out. There's a question of it being in March, so I'm not exactly sure if it's technically Cheerleading Safety Month, but I like it. I like August as Cheerleading Safety Month because we're returning to school. We are ramping up for next season, and everything is kind of progressing. So what better time than to remind us to pay attention to our safety measures and really promote our athletes and keep our athletes safe and promote the safety in cheerleading because it can be a safe sport. You know, there um, there are a lot of catastrophic injuries in cheer. There are a lot of knee injuries and ankle sprains, and concussions are one of our top injuries. But it doesn't have to be unsafe. There are measures that we can do to reduce that risk. And so for the month of August, I'm going to talk safety in cheerleading and injury prevention for cheerleading. And we'll go through the month and talk about some different topics. This week, I'm going to talk about movement screening and why that's important. Next week, we'll talk about warm ups and cool downs. And then we'll talk some footwear and safety issues actually at practice, which are things that coaches really need to be diligent on. And we as cheerleaders need to pay attention to and not give our coaches a hard time when they're making us, pay attention to our surface. And then we'll get into strength and conditioning because I think that's a huge piece and other research based findings for cheerleading and injuries. At the end of the month, I'm going to do a challenge for all of us as we get back into school. So stay tuned on social media for that, and I'll talk about that through the month as well. And hopefully have another free guide out there for you to talk about injury prevention. You can connect to all my webinars. I'll make sure that they're up through the month. Maybe the next day or so, I'll get them out onto the website, and you can connect with all of them. If you want to look at actually, I'll put them separate into this podcast as well. For a warm-up webinar, I have a strength and conditioning webinar, and I just did another webinar recently. So all three of them will be up, and they're free access. They have some exercises attached to them, and you can, learn all kinds of information for how to keep your cheerleaders safe as you ramp up into the season. So let's talk about movement screening. In 2016, I did my comprehensive case analysis and for my doctorate program, and I focused on using the functional movement screen to predict an injury in cheerleading, and does it show that looking at how we move can potentially predict if a cheerleader is going to have an injury. And the research was conclusive that yes, how we move can be a predictor of a future injury in cheerleading. So what does that mean? If you have been following me, I've talked about movement screening. That's my other webinar is actually looking at warm-ups and movement screening and strength and conditioning. So movement screening, we're looking at, can you touch your toes? Can you lean backwards? Can you lie on your back and lift your leg up? Can you go down onto one knee? Can you squat? Can you single leg squat? Can you do a push-up? Can you be on all fours and raise your opposite arm and leg out? And then can you, on your step belly, can you do a press up without pain? So all of these are just basic movement patterns that we need to do in life. And there's some that I think are more specific in cheer, like the leg raise. And it gives us an idea of, what is our baseline mobility like? See a lot of videos of exercises that cheerleaders are doing, and they're wobbling all over the place. There's some cool exercises, leg raises and standing like kicks, and trying to hold on balance. but we're trying to do too many systems. If their ankle's really wobbling and their knees going in and their hips diving, we're going to regress them. And so a movement screen can tell us, like, are you ready to do that exercise and that activity up in the air, or do you need to regress it a little bit? And I think that's key for cheerleading, because if you can't, so for single leg stance, which is one of the positions, um, I looked, is does a foot line up directly underneath the knee, directly underneath the hip, and can we maintain that centered position, that centrated position, where everything is stacked over the other, including our posture cues, our neck, our chins relatively level, our ribs are down, and everything's just stacked nicely. That's like perfect score. Now, if they can't do that, I'm going to look and see, can they do it down on one knee? And do they line up that way? That's if they can and then line up, then that's great. Maybe it's their ankle. We need to do some mobility work. We need to do some strength around their ankle. And there's other things that I'll look at to determine whether it's a strength or a mobility issue. If they don't line up and their foot's taken out of the equation, I look at their hip. And if their hip is not lined up straight and solid there, then we need to do some more strengthening. I love the half kneeling position for this because it takes the ankle out of it and it really hones in on building our core strength and our hip strength in a single leg position. And there's a ton of different exercises. Even just balancing on one knee, lifting the opposite foot up without letting your body lean back and forth is a great exercise, which is really help a flyer, especially up in the air. It's also going to help your bases because it's going to control if their knees go in too far in a valgus position. And it's going to help with jumps because it's going to create some better power. And the same thing with tumbling. If their strength in their hip is not solid, then we need to, and they can't do that, we need to regress it and go down onto the floor, maybe some bridges. Maybe they need to do work on rolling and just basic core mobility work. There's a lot of different things, and it all depends on the individual, of course. But the key is looking at how they move on the ground. Can they control it? And then if not, let's give them the exercise that helps them, that gives them a challenge, but also allows them to succeed. So we're not just throwing dysfunction onto a dysfunction. I fully believe that our body learns by failure, and that challenge is important, and like working on that balance and like challenging that is important, but they need to be able to correct it in that session. And with, like as they're going, that you can see a progress that they're really wobbly, but then they all of a sudden they can pull it in and get steady. If they're not, they're doing themselves a dysfunction and they're just building more of that dysfunction. So I encourage every athlete at this time of year, ideally every month, but especially this time of year, let's see where you're at. It's a baseline. It gives you a starting point for your exercises outside. It tells you, do you have the, if you can't stand on one leg solid on the ground and you can't line up on your knee, how are you ever going to do that in the air? And how are you ever going to hold somebody up in the air? You can't. You have to get that baseline strength there. And so I encourage everybody to go through a movement screen at this time of year. I do offer movement screens. You can send me a video. I'll give you a critique. I'll give you exercises, and then you have some exercises to work with. But it gives you a baseline too. Whether or not you send it to me, like go through these videos and these exercises. I have a free movement screen video that I send out to people. Can you do it? And what does it look like? And if you're all over the place, then seek some help, because that's going to make you a better cheerleader and it's going to reduce your injuries in the process. The research shows that how you move is a predictor for if you're going to have an injury. If you don't have quality movement, and it doesn't, I like you to aim for perfect, but you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to have at least a baseline movement that keeps you level and allows you to progress. And so find out where your starting point is so that you can make progress in that direction. I love August, and I love August being a safety month. My birthday was this past Monday, and so I am all about August and celebrating in the month of August. Return to school, I think it's just a chill time of year, and there's a lot of fun around it. Now's the time to really get ourselves ready to go and get that back to school spirit going. And so get your movement in, check out where you're at, have your starting point, and make that progress so that you're ready to go when school's in full swing and your sessions, your practices are starting and the season is on its roll. So first episode of our injury prevention month and our cheer safety month is in the wraps. Check out your movement screen. Next week, we're going to talk about some warm ups and cool downs, and maybe get into some other aspects of cheer as we go through the month. So tune in, make sure you like and subscribe the podcast, share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Let's spread the message, to help our cheer athletes stay safe. Post on social media, tag USA. I think they have some tags out. And as if you follow me on Instagram, I will put them. I will start tagging them myself. But National Cheerleading Safety Month, and so start tagging it, and if, do your part. That's their slogan this year. So do your part, do your movement screen, and take the steps to make yourself better. Coaches, check in with your athletes, parents, get them screened, and kids, athletes, check in with your movement so that you can stay safe and keep progressing as you go. Have a wonderful week. Don't forget, when in doubt, breathe it out. Take life one step at a time. You can do anything you put your mind to. And as my friend Drew Keller said, you're responsible for your own vibes. Go get the day.